새벽에 LAFC 팟캐스트가 업로드가 되었는데요. 50분 정도의 분량이었습니다. 무슨 얘기를 하는지도 모르기 때문에 그냥 시청해야 합니다. 저는 영어 능통자가 아니기 때문에 여러 도움을 받아야만 시청이 가능하죠. 진행자는 LAFC 선수들 중에 국가대표 차출된 선수들의 상황을 전하고 있는데요. LAFC의 국가대표가 7명이라고 소개를 합니다. 그런데 밴쿠버와의 4강전을 앞두고 중요 선수는 손흥민, 부한가, 슈아니, 모란 정도로 보면 됩니다. 네. 특히 부한가와 모란은 월드컵이 걸려있는 매우 중요한 경기라고 하더라고요. 그리고 마르티네즈라는 선수를 적극적으로 소개하는데 그 선수는 베네수엘라 출신의 19살 선수입니다. 손흥민이 합류하면서 공격진의 경쟁이 더 치열해졌는데 베네수엘라 대표팀에 합류하면서 폼을 끌어올려서 나중에 LAFC에서 최고의 선수가 되길 응원하더라고요. 역시나 이 기간에 부상이 발생할까봐 걱정하고 있었습니다. 어떤 얘기들을 하는지 영상으로 시청해 보시죠.
Okay, let's get into the LAC players on international duty. 7 senior players. I want to include Jude Terry here as an 8th. Jude is at the Under-17 World Cup. Started the first game, came off the bench in the second. They are likely going to move on. They are going to move on. They have the Czech Republic tomorrow. Heung-min with Korea. Friendlies in Korea against Bolivia and Ghana. Matthew Choinière, Canada already qualified. They have friendlies against Ecuador and Venezuela in the United States. He looks pretty close to locking up a spot for Jesse Marsh. Yeah. David Martinez will be with Venezuela. Friendlies here in the U.S. against Australia and Canada. Venezuela will not qualify. Andy Moran got into the Irish team. They have games against Portugal and Hungary. And Ireland, although it's slim, do have a chance to qualify. Ethan Scally was with the Japan Under-17s. Wanted to mention him. Matt Evans back to World Cup qualifying for Under-23s with Guatemala. Christian Diaz with the Under-20 camp. Some of the guys on the academy teams. Nathan Ordaz, El Salvador, games at Suriname and Panama. Tall hill for El Salvador to make it to the World Cup, but they still have a shot. And I want to start with Denny Gabon, Denny Bouanga and Gabon.
Yeah.
Denny Gabon has a good ring to it.
It does. Yeah.
Gabon has never qualified for the World Cup. One game, Nigeria in Morocco on November the 13th. If they win that game, they'll have another game in Morocco against Cameroon or the Congo. And if they win that, they go to the Intercontinental Playoffs, which is, by the way, a 6-team tournament in Guadalajara and Monterrey. I wouldn't mind going down to see this. And Gabon would have to win a game, maybe 2, to qualify. But there's a lot of great stuff going on. But different things. It's a World Cup year. You got to take this seriously. But Denny Bouanga and Nathan Ordaz and then Andy Moran, to a lesser degree, have the most on the line.
Yeah, I would also, from a very selfish aspect, I think there's, we all look at this window and we want the LAFC players to excel, right? We want them to have that opportunity and excel and, come back confident, maybe a little bit fitter, and be in a situation where kind of they've been wrapped up in bubble wrap and mothballs and making sure that they're coming back as healthy as possible without any type of niggling injury. Because it's something that's a concern for every manager and medical staff at this stage of the season for teams that are still participating. But I also think I'm really interested in David Martinez. He's the one I really want to keep an eye on because he hasn't played a big role. He hasn't really played a role at all. And you go back in the summer, and there was a huge opportunity in the Leagues Cup for him to shine, and he did so, and he took it with both hands. But with the acquisition of Heung-min, all of a sudden the shape looks a little bit different. The substitution patterns are adjusted because a guy like Nathan Ordaz goes to the bench to change the dynamic of the tactics as well as the starting 11. And then all of a sudden, it's about competition and training sessions, right? So you're not getting as many game module kind of fitness opportunities. So for David Martinez, this is going to be one where I think what people sometimes forget is there's such a feel-good factor when you go back to your national team. And I can speak from experience, whether it's like the under-20 national team or it was the Olympic team in 2000 or it was being a part of the U.S. national team camps in the offseason. Like you just get to see your boys, like you get to see your family, your crew, you get to speak your language, you get to be back in your culture, wherever it is you're a part of. And then you get to wear your crest with pride because you're effectively one of the best players in your country, right, or representing your country. So my hope for David Martinez is a physical one, but it's also a psychological one, Max, that he could very quietly be maybe the most important player of the season for LAFC should it come down to a moment that he's put on the field and they need something, something that's magical for him. So I guess I'm choosing to look at the international window glass half full as opposed to glass half empty. But my hope is for David Martinez individually that this is a great experience for him because this could be a season which the guy who you're not thinking about inadvertently becomes the most important player of the season because they come up with a moment that really either rescues you or changes the trajectory of your season.
Hey, any chance Sonny will appear on the Jimmy Kimmel? Zlatan did it. Why not? Why not? I think those shows would love to have Sonny on there. Remember, Sonny's going to be here for a bit, so he'll have opportunities to do that. Hope LAFC players won't have physical issues after the international games. Let's talk about that very quickly, Danny, because there's nothing guaranteed. And we've got to hold our breath. Vancouver's going to deal with this too. A lot of them have international players, but LAFC is a little different. I mentioned Son Heung-min has these 2 games in Korea. I would expect Sonny to start the first game and maybe a lesser demanding game in the second, but I'm not the manager there, and Korea can do whatever they want. Matthew Choinière, same kind of thing. For Denny and Nate, they're going to go for it. So these are high-impact games, and Nate's going to be down in Panama where it can get pretty feisty. We've seen these CONCACAF games. There's nothing guaranteed. Got to hold your breath. Historically, they've been good, but MLS is so big now, everyone's dealing with the international break, although because of the names I read you, I think LAFC have a little bit more to lose than most teams.
Yeah, listen, your point's well taken for Denny and Nathan and a couple of the other guys, Andy. But I think what I've learned in these past couple of international windows, being around Mauricio Pochettino and his coaching staff, and we've had real in-depth conversations, and we just saw Oliver Glasner from Crystal Palace kind of have a pop at Pochettino over Chris Richards having a little bit of an ankle niggle, and we saw a spokesperson at AC Milan, have a pop over Christian Pulisic and the tackle that he suffered against Australia. Here's what people are forgetting, Max. For all of these teams that have qualified for the World Cup, these aren't friendlies. These are the last opportunities to really tighten the screws for the managers to figure out who they can trust heading into a World Cup. And I know we're talking about next summer, but the reality is, let's use the U.S. team for an example. The U.S. plays Paraguay in Philly on Saturday. Then they play Tuesday in Tampa against Uruguay. There's no January camp. So the next international window is going to be mid-March. And so they're going to have those 2 games. So a total of 4 games, Paraguay, Uruguay, to be determined in March. And then you name the roster with however many players that are kind of named as alternates and hope that you get through 2 more friendlies before the World Cup kicks off. So effectively, Max, these aren't international friendlies. These are going up and playing against matches and teams that are going to mimic what the World Cup draw could look like for whatever your opponents are in December. That's what September, October, and November are for all of these teams. So just a quick reminder that there is no onus, there is no pressure for the respective national teams to bend the knee to LAFC or any other team in Major League Soccer. They have every right to set their team up to try to get whatever they can out of whatever they're trying to accomplish. And that unfortunately means a risk and an exposure for Steve Cherundolo to have to manage on the backside.